Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in. This is the Three Crown Dynasty Fantasy Podcast, the first one that's going to go and air to you guys. We did one before this. That one didn't go up in time, but this one will. So we're excited to bring it to you. I am Owen. Accompanying me are Hunter and Cam, and we will be doing this every week, trying to give you everything you need to know in the Dynasty format, trades, risers, fallers, what you should be looking to get and what you should be looking to trade away. We'll start with the big news in the NFL today. We had Jakobi Myers going over to the Jags offense, and then we also had one more trade, and I am blanking on it. Tell me, Hunter, who was that other one that I can't? Rashid Shaheed. Oh my goodness, to the Seattle Seahawks was the other big one. Tell me, Hunter, which one of those do you think is the bigger impact of the two?
I definitely think Rashid Shaheed going to the Seahawks is going to have a much bigger impact on the offense. That being said, BTJ and Jakobi Myers having to fight for some targets there. Don't really like that, but I do see Rashid Shaheed having that back, kind of like a back door in that Seahawks offense when defenses are starting to focus on JSN. Hitting that man for deep down the backside is going to be huge for that offense. He's going to be a lethal weapon for them.
Yeah, I think that's a huge bump for Rashid Shaheed, and to be the number two behind JSN is just going to allow not only JSN to get more open, but for Rashid Shaheed to get so many more targets, so many more catches. I think that ups his fantasy value a ton. Cam, talk to me about Jakobi Myers going over to the Jags. Do you think that with BTJ there, with Travis Hunter, do you think he can carve out a piece of that offense, or is he just going to be kind of stuck with too many mouths to feed with Trevor Lawrence at quarterback?
Yeah, when I first heard it, that's the first thing I thought was there's just too many mouths to feed, too many chefs in the kitchen. You're not going to be able to get the ball around. I'm not high on Trevor Lawrence either. He started off this year looking like an MVP caliber QB, and it's just tanked since. So I don't see it as being a huge fantasy deal. I'm with Hunter. I like Shaheed way more to the Seahawks than I do with Myers going to the Jags.
Yeah, I think Shaheed very much won out between the two in fantasy perspective value. He's going to go there. I think he'll be a difference maker. We'll talk about trades for him later, about how much you should be valuing for him. Just because he goes to the Seahawks doesn't mean he becomes like a first-round pick type of thing. It's less than that, but we'll get to that later. First, I want to go with some risers from this last week. Cam, we'll start with you this time around. Who was one of your guys that rose up in those dynasty rankings?
So my first riser I have this week was Quentin Johnson. He went from having 0 targets to, seeing some balls thrown his way. I thought he looked really good this week. I had Colston Loveland as another riser for me. He, after the other tight end, I'm blanking on his name, went out with a concussion. Komet. He came in and looked very good and scored that late game winner. He had ice in his veins. And then Christian Watson coming back from injury. He's really starting to make a role in that Green Bay offense.
Yeah, I think those are all great. I had Colston Loveland on my list as well to go up. He looked phenomenal in that tight end role. He's finally starting to be that player that you drafted in the first round of rookie drafts or high up in your draft board if you started up in this year, and he started to produce, and I think that's just going to continue. Ben Johnson loves his tight ends. He's going to continue to feed him. Colston Loveland looking like he's going to be a great addition to your roster if you have him. And then we talk about the other ones. Quentin Johnston was one where I didn't have him rising for me just because I just felt like he fell last week. So it wasn't really much of a rise. He kind of was at that same value for me as where he was before. I'm still skeptical. Will Quentin Johnston continue to produce, or will he finally drop? Like, when does that happen? There's just it just feels like the floor is waiting to give out, and you just never know when. But another great week from him. So I don't mind the riser there. Hunter, tell me, who do you got as some of your risers this week?
Yeah, I definitely have to say Kyle Monungai. Dude got the start over Swift for 1 week and took full advantage of that. He just looked absolutely phenomenal for the Bears, and he's definitely a shining light for them in the future. Big question is whether it's going to be Swift getting more touches or it's going to be Monungai. I guess we'll see here soon what Ben Johnson wants to do with that. But yeah, the Kamanon guy definitely up there. And then this is kind of a shot in the dark, but I like both of the wide receiver 2 and 3 in Indianapolis Colts. I thought Alec Pierce and Josh Downs both looked really good this week when they needed those guys to step up. They definitely fulfilled that role, and I can only see their futures getting better from here on out. And then I would have to say JJ McCarthy was the big surprise for me this week. He played good. Did not expect that. Definitely was throwing some shade at him last week since he had yet to produce, really. But, he showed me up, so fair enough to him.
Yeah, J.J. McCarthy, everyone was so down on him for one game. He played one game in the NFL, basically. Last year, he was hurt. He comes in, he plays one game. He has a not great first 3 quarters. He has a phenomenal fourth quarter against the Bears. Absolutely balls out, then gets hurt, goes away, and everybody's like, he's terrible. Everybody get rid of him. He's just not worth it. And then you're like, wait, you haven't even seen him play. And now finally he comes back. And he played fairly well. I mean, it wasn't anything that, like, it didn't knock your socks off or anything like that, but it was consistent. There was some great finesse throws in there. He made a big late game throw. So, for the side of fantasy production, he did a good job there. So, I think he definitely is a riser. I had him on my list as well. And I love your pickup of the Colts wide receivers. You talk about Alec Pierce. He was another name on my list where Alec Pierce has continued to rise for me from what was a little bit of production. You were like, oh, he could be good, and now I'm like, he's kind of consistent. He's starting to get a lot of targets. He's starting to finally produce, and he's a sleeper type of pick on your roster to pick him up. So I think he'll be very good as well. He was one of my risers. I have Troy Franklin rising once more again from the Broncos. I know it was a lower week in points wise, but he got so many targets, another 10 target type of week, the double digit mark. He's looking like he could be going for that wide receiver 1 type of role along with Cortland Sutton. Marvin Mims is in there too. There's a lot of mouths, but Bo Nix has a great connection with Troy Franklin. It just seems like it's continuing to grow as we go throughout this season, and I think that's just going to propel Troy Franklin into a very good wide receiver role, a very good fantasy wide receiver role where he could be at least a wide receiver 2, if not a phenomenal flex play for you. So I think that's one that I had going up, and then I had Colston Loveland as well. Luke Musgrave from Green Bay, now that Tucker Kraft is out for the season, he's going to be another one that goes up just because he's tight end 1 over at Green Bay. He's going to have to show up and produce. Tucker Kraft, so good with the yards after the catch. That was the big thing for Tucker Kraft. You talk about Luke Musgrave, he didn't produce in that aspect. Can he do that now that he has this role carved out for him? That's going to be the big question, but still could be a big riser, and at least for the rest of this season should be one. But for fallers, Hunter, do you have any guys that fell this week as a faller for you after watching the games?
This one probably hurts you, Roma Dunze. You're telling me the Bears offense scored, 6 touchdowns in this game?
Yeah.
And this man dropped 0 points. 0 points. I was just baffled when I saw that stat line. As well as, Chuba Hubbard, dude looked, since Dowdle stepped into that role when he was hurt, I think it's no looking back now for Carolina, to be honest with you. As well as Bill Crosby-Merritt. He has not looked good. He's really had one good game this year, and he continues to be a letdown for everybody.
Yeah, I agree with all of those, other than Rome. I don't know if I would drop Rome as a faller. It was a very disappointing week. Like you said, I loved all the memes on Twitter and everything of all the fantasy managers of Rome Odunze. Like, they scored 47 points. How many did Rome have? And everybody's like, 0. Like, it's just so like, how is that even possible? He's such a good wide receiver. But, I think it was just kind of one of those weeks where he didn't get targeted a lot, but I think it'll continue to produce. He's still young. He's got a lot of time ahead of him. So, still really, really good, but I understand why you said the faller there. And then the other one's Chuba Hubbard, definitely. Rico Dowdle's taking over that offense. What was your last one? I missed. I'm blanking on it.
Bill Crosby-Merritt.
Bill he's a run heavy type of running back. He's not really in that pass game. He doesn't catch the passes in order to get you the PPR type of format production that you're looking for. He only gets these runs, and even when he has a good week, it's maybe 50, 60 yards of running production. It doesn't amount to much when you're not getting these passes. So, yeah, he falls for me as well. Cam, did you have anybody else on top of that you would put as a faller this week?
Yeah, I had Tyrone Tracy. He stepped into the starting lineup early this year, lost it to Scadabo. Everyone knows what happened to him. He comes back in this week as a starter and turn around and Singletary. I mean, he got more snaps, Singletary did, and scored more fantasy points this week. And then another one I had was George Kittle. He played one game this year, got hurt for a while, came back and just hasn't looked like himself. I don't know if it's necessarily drop him off the team, but I don't know if he's really a starter right now for anyone. I think he might be sit on the bench, see what happens with him for the rest of the year. I just don't think he's himself.
Yeah, I agree. Did you have one more? I couldn't tell if that was one more from you, Cam.
I had Keenan Allen as well.
Oh yeah,
he lost his wide receiver 3 role this last week. I'm blanking on what the guy's name was, but he lost. I mean, all of his snap shares just gone. He's not worth having on the team anymore.
Yeah, I don't know if I would drop him.
In my opinion,
I don't know if I would drop him. I might try to trade him off for at least something. I think you could get something out of Keenan Allen just off of name value, but definitely a faller. Looking like he's kind of getting that role taken away from him.
Yeah,
still there, still a presence, but yeah, I think he goes.
You
down.
Get anything? It's just off a name alone.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I liked your other ones as well. You had. Oh my goodness, I'm so bad. What was the first one? I had a point. Tyrone Tracy. Yeah, Tyrone Tracy was. He comes in to the RB1 role, and you talked about it. Singletary takes over already for Tyrone Tracy. We were like, oh my goodness, Cam, you have him on your dynasty team in this in our home league, and we were like, dude, you are going to have an RB1. You just got another RB1 with Cam Scadabo going down. It's going to be so good for your team, and it's nothing. Like your second RB is just maybe a flex play at best for you. So that is unfortunate.
Dropped a solid 6.7 this week.
Yeah. I think everybody was really high on him. When you saw trades go through, you're going to be regretting that one if you traded for him to get him on your team when he's just going to give you that. But now we'll go over to some trade talk, unless you have anybody else that you want to say rose or fall before we get into those trades.
Real quick, who was taking Keenan Allen's targets? I did not see the Chargers game this week.
I cannot remember his name.
Is it a no name?
It was a young guy.
Trey Harris? Is that what we're talking about?
No.
You got Quentin Johnston, you got Ladd McConkey, and then you have Gadsden there, and then Trey Harris has been playing a little bit.
Yeah, maybe it is.
I don't know about the rest of them. I didn't watch enough of the Chargers game this week. I had watched a couple of the other ones just because last week I have Quentin Johnson on my home team, and he gave me a 0 bomb, so I'm like, I can't watch it this week. I'm just gonna let him see what he can do, because I watched last week and it was just not good. It made me so mad with what he gave me.
It was Trey Harris. Trey Harris took over his snap share.
Yes.
Wow. The last 2 weeks.
Trey Harris has been carving out a piece for himself. I'm pretty sure he's a bit younger, so that might be one that we see rise up later down the line. But for now, maybe a waiver ad, but not really. I mean, there's not much left on the waivers, but definitely.
Yeah, I mean, he's a rookie, so.
Yeah, he could be a sneaky ad on the waivers. Maybe he can carve out a piece. And on a high-powered offense with Justin Herbert, that's just going to be slinging that ball. But a lot of mouths to feed over there. So scary to pick up the last target on the Chargers when there's so many guys before him. Yeah. But Hunter, did you? Yeah. I can't remember. Did you say that you had one more before?
No, I also threw in Tony Pollard in there, as well as BTJ. He was kind of a faller for me with the Myers trade going through today. But I mean, Pollard, he's losing his snap percentage to Spears. He's getting his looks from Spears, taken from Spears. So just stay away from the Titans offense. Yeah. Nobody there is doing anything.
No one's worth.
Yeah, it's just he's not even a viable flex option anymore. Like, he's gone. He's off the roster, I would say. Or just finding a comfortable spot on my bench. One of the two.
Just deep down in the depths of your bench, you're like, I might start him if I need it, but it's gonna. Yeah. I'm gonna hurt putting him up there is what it's gonna be. But yeah, I agree. Yeah. The Titans offense, one to stay away from, not great. They're going to need some time to get everything back together before you think about anybody there. I mean, the quarterback's not good, so you're not looking at the quarterback. You're not looking at the wide receivers. There's a committee backfield at the running back position. Stay away from it. I think everybody knows that by now, but I agree. Tony Pollard, definitely a faller. We'll go over to some trades, and I'm going to go over to Rashid Shaheed first. Let's go over to Rashid Shaheed. What do you want to trade for him? Well, I picked out some trades that we're going to talk about a little bit. This is 1 QB, 12-team leagues, full PPR. Not that it matters too much. I mean, it matters for the wide receivers, the PPR portion. But the first one was Rashid Shaheed for a 2026 second-round pick. Which side would you rather be on? Would you make this deal if you were trying to trade for Rashid Shaheed?
No, I don't think so. I think if you have him, you hold on to him for a little bit. I think you're going to be selling low right now. If you do just give him up for a second, I think you let him go a couple weeks in that Seahawks offense. You let him start cooking over there, and I think you can sell him for a lot more than just a second.
Hunter, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I would agree with Cam. I would, if I'm owning Rashid Shaheed, I'm definitely going to hold on to him. Second round pick does sound enticing, but this draft class I'm not really a fan of. So I would definitely take Rashid Shaheed over a second round pick right now.
Yeah. 2026 draft class, not great from what we've seen. There's a couple in the first round that might be good, but as you get later on, it's not great. The first round's not even really that great when you get to the latter picks of that first 10, 12. So I think a 2026 second, like you said, it's enticing for Rashid Shaheed, but I think you wait for that one pop-off game that he has over on that Seahawks offense, and then you just try to get the house for him. You just tie him in with a trade. It's going to push it over the edge. It's going to be everything that you want. So I agree. A 2026 second, I'd probably hold off on for now, but you're hoping he becomes something in that Seattle offense, and I think Sam Darnold will be able to produce that at least a couple weeks to give him some value to trade him away, like more than what he's already at. We'll go.
If you look at this last week, that Horton kid, I mean, he scored 2 tutties this last week, and I have to think Rashid Shaheed is a better player than him, than some no name. And Sam Darnold's able to spin the ball out there and get him in the end zone twice. So I got to think he'll have, a couple pop off games, and you'll be able to sell him. Like you said, tie him in a trade, sell him high, and you'll get more value than a second.
Yeah. And I think you said it best there with just he's a better wide receiver. He's so fast. He's so nimble. He's got great. He's great at catching the ball. So I think he's going to fill in perfectly for this offense, and I think his stock is going to go up. Do you think if he performs really well that first week, are you going to be able to give him up if you're a Rashid Shaheed owner, or do you think you're like, I don't know, I might have to keep him for the rest of the season, see if he becomes something great?
I think I'd give him up, to be honest with you. I don't think it's worth. It also depends on what the rest of your team looks like, but I think you get one good pop off game, and then that offense with as many wide receivers and Sam, a counterpoint to what I just said, Sam Darnold's also able to throw it around to a Horton and score tutties. So anyone can pop off in that. So you get one good game out of him. I think you get rid of him right away.
Hunter, agree, disagree?
Ooh, it's a tough one for me. I could see him becoming a viable flex option in the future. Is that right now? I don't know. I would agree with Cam. I would trade high on him and probably add him in and a package deal for that.
Yeah. That's where I'm at. I think at best, if you need him in a pinch for some of these bye weeks, maybe you could keep him for that, but you hold him too long and that value is going to drop. For right now, he's very much up, and you're going to be looking to get him off your team and become something great. We'll go over to the next trade. It's this one a bit more, but you're trading away Rashid Shaheed, a 2026 second, a 2027 second. So Rashid Shaheed in 2 seconds for Brian Thomas Jr., a guy who's been down, he's been falling, he hasn't put up the production, now he's hurt, a high ankle sprain, could be out for 4 weeks this season, you might be relying on him in the future. It's been a sophomore slump of sophomore slumps. You got Travis Hunter there now. You got Jakobi Myers. Do you think you would trade Rashid Shaheed away for a BTJ on the hopes that he comes back up, and a Rashid Shaheed in 2 seconds for BTJ, or is that too much to give up for a player that's on the down?
No shot. No shot. I'm sorry. I may be a bit biased here. I'm not a big BTJ fan. I think that's way too much value for BTJ and what he's at right now. I don't think I really like that Jags offense. Like Cam had mentioned earlier, Trevor Lawrence, not really high on him. Not really high on the play calling in Jacksonville either. And now with Jakobi Myers there's a lot of mouths to feed. So I don't like that trade at all.
Cam, are you on that same side?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, if BTJ couldn't give you points when it was just him, when he was the whole passing attack, you're definitely not getting points when you throw Jakobi Myers in there. I don't think that's worth it at all.
I will say, as a BTJ owner, I've got some shares in him. He's he's been injured. He's been injured throughout the entirety of this season, going into the early portion of the year. Was injured then with, I believe it was like a wrist injury, and now he's got an ankle sprain. He hasn't been 100%. It's the sophomore slump. I do think he's down, but would I give up 2 seconds and Rashid Shaheed in the hopes that BTJ comes up? I don't think so. I do think it's too much. I would probably try to do less in any form, and if not, I don't know if I'd be trading for BTJ. I think he's a hold right now, Brian Thomas Jr., that is, just because, like you said, there's so many mouths to feed now, and it's not a Sam Darnold at the helm. It's not a Justin Herbert, a Jared Goff, like somebody that can sling the ball, or a Drake May, excuse me. But it's Trevor Lawrence, who has been subpar, to say the least. He's had some great fantasy weeks, but when you watch the games, you never feel confident in what's actually going on. There has been some drops from BTJ as well, so that doesn't help the case either. I don't know if I'm trying to trade for BTJ. If I was, I mean, Rashid Shaheed and maybe the 2027 second is what I would be willing to give up. Give up one less second, but I don't think I would give up 2 seconds and Rashid Shaheed with the upside that he's got for BTJ. I'd probably go after something else a little bit more consistent. But if you're really trying to buy low on BTJ, I mean, maybe if you're convinced that would be what you're going for. But I just think that's a lot. But we'll go over to Jakobi Myers. Jakobi Myers just got traded as well. Another one that people are probably thinking about. Should I trade for him? Do I think his value goes up now that he is off, or now that he's on to the Jags offense? We kind of talked about our woes with the Jags offense, but this one is a 1 QB full PPR league. Jakobi Myers for Isaiah Pacheco. Which side do you think wins out on that deal?
Whoever's getting Myers is winning out on that. I don't like anybody in the Kansas City backfield. And if I had to lean one way, it's definitely going towards Hunt because he at least catches the ball in that full PPR. Myers will still, I think still has that big playability, still can get you some points here and there. I don't think anyone really, I'm not high on Pacheco. I think anyone really should be going for him right now, in my opinion.
Hunter, agree, disagree?
Pacheco's been hurt as of recently, so that's why you've seen his snap percentage go down. And I will say in the games that he was their RB1, I should say, he has not looked too good. So I would agree with Cam on this. I would definitely have Jakobi Myers over Isaiah Pacheco. However, I don't even think I'd even bat an eye at that trade. I would just see how things play out for Myers in Jacksonville first before accepting that.
Yeah, I agree. I think Pacheco's on the downslide. Kareem Hunt, Brashard Smith. There's so many mouths to feed over on that Kansas City offense, and it just feels like Pacheco is the one that's falling from it the most. He has been injured, but I just wouldn't want to trade Jakobi Myers, who maybe could become something better on the Jags instead of the Raiders. Maybe become, without Geno Smith, he goes over to Trevor Lawrence. He thought he was going to go to a team that maybe could really let him shine, but I don't know if this is the team, but I still think there's going to be a piece for him to carve out. And I would take Jakobi Myers in that. I would rather keep Jakobi Myers if it's me. If you have Pacheco and can trade for Jakobi Myers, though, I would definitely do that. I would. If you can get somebody to accept that, I'd send that and just play the upside of Jakobi Myers at the Jags. We go to the next one. I had written this down. This is same thing, 1 QB, full PPR. It's Keon Coleman, young guy over on the Bills, has been subpar and just hasn't really. He's got time, but at the same time, it just feels like he's never really on the up. And then Keon Coleman and a 2026 second for Jakobi Myers. Who, Hunter, you can go first on this one. Which side do you like better on that trade, or do you think that's an even deal?
I think this is one of those trades that you kind of have to think on for a bit. Like you had said, Keon Coleman, he's never really been up as a wide receiver in the Bills offense. I think that's right now Khalil Shakur. He's definitely the one being talked about as far as being the wide receiver one on that offense. So you throw in a second round pick in 2026. Again, another draft class. Don't see the value in it really for the second round pick. I think I'm going to stick with Myers on this one and ride it out to see if he can maybe get some targets away from BTJ, maybe steal a touchdown every other week. I think I'm going to hold on to BTJ. My bad. I'm going to hang on to Jakobi Myers here. Sorry.
Yeah. Jakobi Myers. Cam, are you on that same side, or would you take Keon Coleman in a second?
100%. 100%. I'm right there with him about this year's draft. I don't think the second this year really gains you any value, to be honest. I think by the time that second round comes around in the rookie draft, you're just kind of throwing darts at a dartboard. You know, someone's going to hit, someone's going to be good, but they're not good enough to know, if a second is really worth it, especially not in this draft. And Coleman, I just don't. He might take some time to start producing, but it's not happening now. And I think Myers has a bigger upside to him right now.
Yeah, I'm kind of split on this one. I'm where if you are a contending team and you have Jakobi Myers, I would definitely not give him up for Keon Coleman in a 2026 second. I think you keep Jakobi Myers, you play the upside. If you're a rebuilding team, though, I might get rid of Jakobi Myers. 28 years old, going to the Jags. A second round pick, yeah, it's likely that you're not going to get anything great, but at the same time, you could strike gold. You've at least give yourself a chance for a player that could be better than a Jakobi Myers. It is a lower draft class, but you just never know with what you get. Keon Coleman, 23. You're rebuilding anyways. Maybe you can give him that year or two to really start to try and shine. If he does have some good games and you don't think it's going to show up, you could try to trade him away. He does get like 5 to 10 points a lot of the time. So if he can just consistently get up to 10, I think you gain some value there along with that 2026 second. So I'm kind of stuck in that middle ground of if you're rebuilding, I would take that. If you're contending, I would definitely want Jakobi Myers by a landslide. It wouldn't even be close. Jakobi Myers, I'd just let him stick on the roster, let him go for that. And if you're contending, you're not trading for Keon Coleman in a second for Jakobi Myers. You're just keeping him. So yeah, I'm with you on that. And then we're going to go over to Hunter's trade. Hunter received a juicy trade today in our home league. Our home league is a 1 QB full PPR league with no tight end premium, no super flex. And Hunter, you can tell us what it was and what you countered with, just so we can they can get some idea of what it was.
Yeah, so he sent me. I have Amon Ra, and he sent me Garrett Wilson and a 2026 first round pick. Didn't know how to feel about it. I thought he was kind of undervaluing Amon Ra, so I countered with actually 2 trade offers. I sent him Terrell McMillan and a 4th round pick for Garrett Wilson straight up. And then I sent him as well as Amon Ra for Ladd McConkey, Garrett Wilson. And I think I threw in a 3rd round pick in 2027, I want to say. That's what I'd countered with. So, yeah, you guys let me know what you guys think with that.
Cam, you want to go first?
I think the Ladd McConkey one, I think you're overvaluing Amra. I don't think, Ladd's got that, like he can make big games. I think he's kind of down this year. even though that Chargers offense is going off. But I think who else was with him? Ladd and who else?
And Garrett Wilson.
Garrett Wilson.
And a
And
third.
Garrett Wilson? Oh yeah. No, I think you're overvaluing Amon Ra, to be honest with you. I wouldn't take that if it was me. Especially, I mean, I think those players straight up is already overvaluing, and then throwing a third on top of that, I think is, in my opinion, I'm not taking that.
Yeah.
If I was you, I would love to see that trade go through. You know?
Yeah.
But I just don't. I think you're overvaluing Amon Ra.
Okay. What do you think about the one I counter with Terra and McMillan and Pick?
That's more iffy in my head. I like McMillan. He looks real nice in that offense, especially as a young guy. You're getting a real young guy. I mean, I know G. Will's, he's only 25, so it's not like it's that big of a difference, but I always value that younger age. That one I would have to think about. I would probably go on that I would take that trade with you and send G. Will over, but that I would have to think on.
Garrett Wilson and a 2026 first feels like just not enough in this for me to get rid of Amon Ra. If it was me personally, that's just Amon Ra is 26 years old. He is he's just a staple in that Lions offense. He consistently gets you 20 points. You just plug and play. You never have to worry about him. You go over to Garrett Wilson, you do have to worry. It's the Jets offense. He could get you the 20 bomb, or he could get you a 4-point week. He's done it twice already. And I'm not saying he's bad. He's very good. He is a good player, but he's 25 years old. He's 1 year younger than Amon Ra. And then you're going to a 2026 first where you're hoping to get Amon Ra is what you're hoping to get out of that 2026 first. And then you have Garrett Wilson where you're going to have a lot of good weeks with a couple down weeks. I would rather just stay with Amon Ra, know that I'm getting that pick, or know that I'm getting that 20 points every week, not have to worry about it, and start focusing on the other parts of my offense. He's one of the top receivers for me in the Dynasty format. I would want more. If you're going to get me off of Amon Ra, I need more out of it. Ladd McConkey, Garrett Wilson, and a third-round pick, probably overvalued. Ladd McConkey is down. He is, like, his value's down, but I think he will be a great piece of that offense. I think if he were to counter with Garrett Wilson and Ladd McConkey, I don't think that's unreasonable, but I definitely think it's one where he'd be going, oh, do I want to get rid of that much for Amon Ra? But he then gets a staple player. He gets that piece of his offense that you no longer have to worry about, a wide receiver one that you just plug and play. Whereas Garrett Wilson and Ladd McConkey, Ladd's drop stinkers, Garrett Wilson's drop stinkers. You have to worry about those a little bit more. I think Ladd, Garrett Wilson, and a third-round pick, you're reaching, but you're trying to see how far it'll go. You know, you're like, how much can I get for? How willing are you to see? And then let him counter offer you back down. You shouldn't try to undersell him. Then you talk about Tet and a 4th-round pick for Garrett Wilson. Oh, I don't know. I kind of love. I've loved Tet for how young he is. He's looked so good on that, like, for being on a bad offense. I mean, they had to put Andy Dalton in as the quarterback for a while, which just means you're like, oh, what are we doing at quarterback? We got to plug and play somebody. And he still shows up. He's been a solid fantasy producer. He's younger than Garrett Wilson, 4th-round pick. I mean, I think that's more of a fair trade. I don't know who gets the better end of that, but I think it's just, who do you value more? Do you want Tet? Do you want Garrett Wilson? I would probably, if I was rebuilding, I would definitely stick with Tet and try to see what kind of upside you can get. If I was competing, Garrett Wilson may be the way to go. He's been more of that 20-point scorer more often than Tet has. So I think that one is just, are you competing? Are you rebuilding? What's your goal for the next few years? And I like that one. I don't think that one's overvalued either way by any means. Garrett Wilson and Tet, both guys I would love to have on my team if I could get them. But yeah, that's where I'm at on that. But
for the future, do you think the Jets, do they get a quarterback in the first round this year?
I don't think that's the problem. I don't think that Justin Fields is the only problem they have. They have head
No,
coach
they definitely
problems.
have.
They have line problems. They have
They have
so many
line
things.
problems. So I agree.
So it doesn't matter if you plug a first round from 2026 in. I don't think it's like, oh, he looks so much better because we got a first round. We got what is his name? Like Nussenmeyer is like a 26 pick. What's up?
I worry about Jewel in the future. I mean, I know right now he's on a terrible offense, still dropping 20 bombs here and there, but you just worry like, will it ever get better?
Yeah.
What are they going to put in for the future in these? Because some trades we didn't talk about. They gave away Sauce and Williams today for another 2 first rounds. So they have 3 first rounders this next year. So what are they going to get? Does that Jets offense turn around, start looking real nice in the future with those pieces in place, or are they still going to be the Jets?
Yeah.
It'll be interesting.
Storied franchise as being a bottom tier team. So that's where
Yes.
it makes me worried every time with Garrett Wilson. And he's kind of had that like Terry McLaurin type of treatment where Terry has just been on terrible teams like his entire career. And you look at Terry, you're like, he was a good receiver the entire time. He just was always on a horrible team. And that's kind of where I feel like Garrett Wilson's at, is he's kind of been just like stuck in the muck of like, where can I finally get to a team that can let me shine? And he's been playing well on a team that has been bad. I don't know. I don't know if the Jets are going to be able to turn it around, but I do think he's consistent at least around that 20-point mark, other than when he plays Denver or Buffalo, were the two that he dropped those stinkers on. So, I mean, I do like Tet, though. Tet McMillan is so young. He looks so good.
Too. He's so good.
I'll go over to my trade that I just sent in our home league. One to talk about. It is one that I think will benefit both teams, but I have Breece Hall. Didn't get traded today. Very sad about that. I picked up Isaiah Davis hoping that he would get traded so I would have Isaiah Davis and Breece Hall and go, big brain, I now have 2 RB1s. But didn't happen. Then, so Breece Hall, and then I was going to trade away, who was it? Brian Thomas Jr. and a first-round pick. So Breece Hall, Brian Thomas Jr., first-round pick for CeeDee Lamb and Chase Brown was the other side of that. I'd be getting CeeDee Lamb, a wide receiver 1 by all means, and then Chase Brown, a little bit worse of a running back in my opinion than Breece Hall, but I mean, as of late, at least for this season, once Joe Flacco came into the offense, he's looked so much better. He's been able to get so many PPR touches. Where do you fall on that trade? Do you think I'm overpaying? Do you think would you think about taking that if that was your team? Where are you at on that? Would you offer the trade?
What was it was Breece Hall and
BTJ and a 2027 first round pick.
Okay, that's what I was missing. I think you definitely, if you have CeeDee Lamb and Brown, you definitely have to look at that. I think it's another one of those, where are you at? Are you a contender? Are you not? BTJ for me is kind of like you said, the sophomore slump. Are you willing to hold on to him for a year or two, see what happens to him? I always love getting a first round pick, especially in 27, like we've been talking about. Not huge on the 26. Breece Hall, I mean, he obviously wants out of there. Has 1 more year as a Jet, and then he's out.
Yeah, end of this
year. The writing's on the wall. He posted it all over his Twitter. I mean, everybody knows he's not going to be a Jet next year. So,
that was so funny. Breece Hall's Twitter was just like him, just like looking, waiting to get traded while everyone else is going. Yeah, that was so funny.
So if you're a contender, I don't think you take this. I think you hold on to your guys through the season. But if you're in a rebuild, I think it's definitely a trade I would take. I think both those guys are someone you give them a year or two, and you might look like you just big brained, especially with that first round. You never know what you're going to get out of that. So I think that's another one of those. You just kind of have to see where you are in the league and decide.
Sheesh. I think this is a tough one for me. I like the Breece. I like the BTJ. CD and Chase. Chase was supposed to be good this year with Joe Burrow in. However, he's not looked too good throughout this year. However, he is stepping up his play with Joe Flacco in, which is interesting. However, giving up Brees Hall for him and BTJ in a first for CD. It depended on my team, but I would rather have CD and Chase for sure. I mean, when those offenses are going, they're both those guys are throwing up 20 plus every other week. So I would definitely have the CD and Chase side just for the upside on those two guys. I mean, the Cowboys defense is the number one fantasy player right now for the Cowboys. They're just allowing their offensive players to get so much value because they're always behind. And then, yeah, Chase, he's a solid running back. You throw him in with a decent offense, and he's a lethal weapon in there for them. So I think I would take that side of the trade over Brees, BTJ in a first rounder in 2027.
Yeah, I'm a competing team. I'm really looking to grab some assets that are performing well. CeeDee Lamb and Chase Brown are two that have been. Like you said, Chase Brown looked horrid with Jake Browning at the helm, but then they get Joe Flacco, and he has just been getting so many check down passes that he's become a 20-point scorer every week, basically, since Joe Flacco came in, and then CeeDee Lamb is just CeeDee Lamb. If you're rebuilding, I think then you get a 27 first, you get BTJ, a guy that everybody was high on just a year ago. Everybody was saying he's like a top 10 dynasty wide receiver, top 8, and now he's just having a bad year, so you have that time. And then Brees Hall looks so good on a terrible offense, on the Jets offense, and he wants to get traded. Just wait 1 year. Next thing you know, he could be a Chief. He could be over on Washington. He could be on so many different places that need a running back, and maybe he becomes this elite weapon. So if you're a rebuilding team, you're going to get these two players that people were very high on in the future, but for this year, it just doesn't look like they're going to be able to produce. And then you get a first-round pick in 27, get you some of that 27 draft class. Like you said, Cam, I love that class. There's so many good weapons in there that I think, I don't know. I think it was a great trade that I proposed. I think it benefits us both since he's a bit of a rebuilder, but I still think he thinks he can compete. So I don't think he's going to take it but I'll send it to him again next week when after he loses, hopefully, and hopefully he'll take that. But that was yeah. What?
7 of our teams are 4-5. Nobody wants to admit to rebuilding quite yet.
Yeah, our home league.
Nobody wants to admit to that quite yet.
Our home league is diabolical with what the teams are at right now. We have one guy who's 7-2. Me and another guy are 5-4, and then the other 7 in our dynasty league are 4-5, and just the points for are like all within. Most of them are within like 50, 60 points. Like it's anybody's playoffs. So I'm trying to trade with these guys that are lower, and I'm like, everybody thinks they can compete. Everybody thinks they're in. Like it takes one game, and you have just jumped the pack. It's so annoying. I lose one game and I could be down out of the playoff possibly, but we'll see what happens there. But that's all we had for this one. Any final points on any players, anything like that before we get out of here?
Nope.
No, I'm all good.
All right. Well, then that was the 3 Crown Dynasty first week of our podcast. We appreciate you tuning in. Make sure you tune in every week. We'll try to have this done on Tuesdays, out on Wednesdays to get you ready for the week ahead of you. We've got a nice week coming up, a week 10 of fantasy football, still some buys to get through before we get to that playoffs, but it's the last push like we talked about with our home league. It's teams that are in that. There's a lot of teams in that middle contention spot where you're like, am I rebuilding? Am I going into the playoffs? You never know. Well, this week should probably decide that for you. It should really be that indicator, and you might want to get ahead of the game. But make sure you tune in so we can give you some more risers, fallers, waiver ads, whatever it is. This is the 3 Crown Dynasty. I'm Owen. Accompanying me are Hunter and Cam. We appreciate you tuning in. That's going to be it from us.